U.S. Army sends next-gen Abrams prototype to Fort Hood this fall. The U.S. Army is sending prototype versions of its next-generation Abrams tank and a brand-new infantry combat vehicle to Fort Hood, Texas this fall, putting cutting-edge armor into the hands of soldiers for the first time. Troops from the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, part of the 1st Cavalry Division, will be the first in the Army to train on both platforms and put them through real-world testing conditions. Task Purpose first reported the news on Tuesday. Soldiers at Fort Hood will begin familiarization training with the M1E3 Abrams and the XM30 mechanized infantry combat vehicle prototypes in the fall of 2026. After several months of hands-on training, the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team will take both vehicles to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California, for a full rotation in spring 2027. The brigade fields roughly 3,400 soldiers. One platoon will test the M1E3, while 2 platoons will evaluate 2 different variants of the XM30. Maj. Gen. Thomas Felty, commanding general of the 1st Cavalry Division, did not mince words about what these platforms represent. The new Abrams and the XM30 are not incremental improvements, but a major shift forward in terms of technology. He told reporters Thursday that framing sets expectations well beyond a routine upgrade cycle. This is the Army signaling that its ground combat force is entering a fundamentally different era of armored warfare. The M1E3 Abrams is a significant departure from the tanks currently in service. It weighs 10 tons less than existing variants, a reduction that directly addresses one of the Abrams' longest-standing operational headaches: its sheer mass limits, where it can go and how quickly it can get there. The M1E3 also uses a hybrid electric diesel engine that Felty said is 50% more fuel efficient than older systems. On a battlefield where fuel logistics are a constant vulnerability, that number carries real weight. The tank retains the Abrams name but is engineered from the ground up to meet the demands of modern high-intensity conflict. Crew survivability and situational awareness have also been upgraded through new digital systems that allow soldiers to see farther on the battlefield. The M1E3 reportedly includes an onboard artificial intelligence system designed to help crews detect threats and identify targets faster than a human operator could manage alone in a peer-level fight where reaction time determines survival. That capability could prove decisive. The Army has not released detailed specifications on the AI suite, but its inclusion signals that autonomy-assisted targeting is moving from experimental programs into frontline armor. The XM30 mechanized infantry combat vehicle is slated to replace the M2 Bradley, a platform that has carried infantry soldiers into battle since 1981. The Bradley has seen combat across multiple decades and theaters and has proven itself a capable system, but it was designed for a different threat environment. The XM30 is built for the current one. 2 separate variants will be tested simultaneously by the 2 platoons at Fort Hood, giving the Army comparative data from real soldiers operating under realistic conditions rather than contractor-controlled evaluations. Both the M1E3 and the XM30 share a capability that Felty highlighted as increasingly essential in modern warfare: the ability to generate and distribute significant electrical power. They can charge all sorts of systems. He said that matters because the contemporary battlefield is defined by energy consumption. Drones, electronic warfare equipment, sensors, and communication systems all draw power continuously. Vehicles that can serve as mobile power nodes give the units around them a meaningful operational advantage. Designing that capability into the platforms from the start reflects how thoroughly the Army has absorbed the lessons of recent conflicts. Both programs fall under the Army's Transform and Contact initiative, a structured effort to accelerate modernization by putting new technology directly into operational units rather than keeping it in development labs. Under the program, Army leaders select specific infantry and armor formations to integrate the latest equipment into their training cycles and combat rotations. Soldiers then provide feedback that flows back to senior Army leaders who use it to refine the platforms and adjust fielding plans across the force. It is a deliberate attempt to compress the gap between prototype and battlefield-ready system. The 1st Cavalry Division's 1st and 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Teams are both designated participants in Transform and Contact, placing the M1E3 and XM30 evaluations with the 1st Cavalry Division means the Army is using one of its most storied and combat-experienced divisions as the proving ground for its next generation of armored fighting vehicles. The feedback those soldiers generate at Fort Hood and Fort Irwin will shape how the Army equips its armor and mechanized infantry formations for years to come. The spring 2027 rotation at the National Training Center will be the real test. Fort Irwin's vast desert terrain and its opposition force, one of the most demanding simulated adversaries in the world, will stress both platforms in ways that no controlled prototype evaluation can replicate. What comes out of that rotation will tell the Army and anyone watching whether the M1E3 and XM30 are ready for the fight they were built for.